So now we go to conservation of momentum. Now, the task was you guys should research about the conservation of momentum. What did you guys find? Just describe it without really formally writing anything. What did you find about conservation of momentum?
Okay, we learned, or let me say me. So I learned that the total linear linear momentum in an isolated system is conserved. So the meaning of an isolated system means like there is no external forces that are contributing to like the situation. So basically external forces are like non-existent in an isolated system. So the linear momentum can be destroyed or lost because it's conserved. I don't know if that makes sense.
Okay, good. Does that make sense to you? Okay, like, do you understand what you just said, right? You understand what you
Yes,
just explained. Okay, cool. Sam?
Okay, under my research, I just learned that energy can't be destroyed, but it can be converted into other forms. And also there is collision, elastic, and inelastic under the conservation of momentum.
Okay, what's the difference between that? You have touched on an interesting concept, which is a conservation of linear momentum. Indeed, you said energy cannot be destroyed, but can be transferred from one body to another. Can you give some sort of an example to describe that?
Maybe let's say there is a collision in the line, and obviously that energy can be stored as a sound. Again, if there is an explosion, kuzoqala kube ne-sound, and that sound will transfer into a light again, which is a part of energy again.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
excellent. Okay, that's good research, Sam. Who else?
So,
Yes.
so also that like the on adding to what like Sam is saying about, let's say, a collision, right? So basically the momentum before the collision will be equal to the momentum after the collision, because like Sam said, the energy and the energy or whatever will be converted into something else. So the previous momentum will be the same as the final momentum.
Cool, nice. That's quite good, guys. Who else hasn't said something here? I want to hear all you also research. On the participants here, who else? Lerato, what did you find about conservation of momentum?
Oh, for me, I realized that there are like different types of collisions, as Usam said, and that like I figured out that the formula also changes with the types of collisions that they are. For example, when an object moves as a unit before collision, there's a particular formula for that. But it's like the basic formula is that the sum of momentum of initial momentum is equals to the sum of the what is this called? Is equals to like the before is equals to the after. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Cool.
I think Ubuno just mentioned that right now, but yeah.
Awesome. Anyone else who still wants to share their research on the conservation of momentum?
Sir.
Yes.
So I don't know who was talking. So who was talking like now?
Lerato.
Ms. Lerato.
Yes, adding on like what Lerato's saying. So you can also, since she was saying like there's specific kinds of formulas, you can also just use the original formula and you'll get the same answer. But then the formulas that she's mentioning will make life easier for you. That's what I noticed.
Awesome. Do you guys realize that, guys, when I give you a research task, it is not just because I want you guys to go and research, maybe because I'm bored. It is so that you guys even understand yourself when it comes to what type of a thing are you? I asked what is the conservation of momentum. You guys were able to research 3 things that are talking about the same thing but with different perspectives. Okay, so this is part of the exercises that we do so that we can see where do you fit in. For example, the first approach which I had let's start with the approach from Sam. Sam said energy can be conserved, or energy cannot be created or destroyed, but it can only be transferred, okay, or changed its form, and gave an example. That is a scientific mindset. And I wouldn't be surprised if I find Sam as a scientist in the next 10 years. Okay. Then comes the next person that I want is Lerato. Then comes Lerato comes with a mathematical approach. Lerato says that each and every type of collision and explosion has got its own formula depending on how the objects are arranged. That is a mathematical mindset, because she's bringing a mathematical approach to solving real world problems. Then comes Orifa now. Orifa comes and unifies the mathematics with the science by now explaining the isolated system. That's now a physicist. So you guys see that you guys can be able to study your mind and see how based are you. Do you have an analytical mindset? Do you have a probabilistic mindset? Do you have a statistical mindset? There are many different mindsets that will help you also with career guidance, so that you understand where do you fit in the most. So all of your approaches, guys, they are very wonderful. Clap hands for yourselves. It's very, 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 very wonderful. And everyone else, clap hands for them before we start with the topic. Open the mics, all of you, clap hands. Yes, cool. All right. So I want now to unify everything and bring everything to sense by asking this question. This is a provocative question. I want to ask you guys, we've got a ball here. You can see that we've got a ball. And you guys, since you've done physics, you already see that we've got a big white ball, then we've got a small red ball, right? Now, my question is, in the above scenario, I have a big ball, the black and white ball, and a small pink ball. Assume the big ball is moving, but the small one is stationary, meaning that the big ball is moving towards the right. You can see that this V towards the right shows it's moving towards the right. But this pink small ball, it is not moving, it is stationary. Okay, what do you think would happen after some time? Just put your imagination into work. Imagine this ball rolling and rolling and rolling, this white ball, black and white ball, rolling towards this pink ball. In your imagination, what do you expect to happen after some time?
So they're gonna collide, and then the pink ball is gonna move backwards because it's much lighter than the big ball, and it's also stationary, so it's gonna move backwards.
Yes, guys, we're using our own imagination. Before we even bring some maths and physics into this, we already know that if we push this white ball towards the pink ball, it will just collide and push this pink ball as well. This pink ball was stationary, but now it will start moving. Do you see that the pink ball actually gains some momentum because of another object? Do you see that? Yes, so this is what you guessed right. The smaller ball will be pushed to start moving as well. And once something starts moving, it means that it has got some velocity, meaning that it has got some momentum as well. So this means that momentum can be transferred from one object to another. That is the first concept that you have to develop, to say that momentum can be transferred from one object to another. For example, when this ball is moving, this ball has got some momentum, because remember that this ball has got a mass, right? And it has also got a velocity. So it has got some momentum, right? It has got some mass that is moving. That's momentum. But now this white ball, initially, this pink ball, initially it has got a mass, yes, but it has got zero velocity, zero speed, because remember that this was stationary, okay? So it has got zero momentum if it is stationary. But because this ball collides with it, it pushes it in such a way that it starts having a velocity. Okay, and once it starts having a velocity, it means that it has got some momentum. So in other ways, we can try and say that this ball, this black and white ball, has transferred its momentum to the what? To the pink ball. Do we kind of get the sense of transferring momentum?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So now we say that during the collision, the total linear momentum of an isolated system remains constant, or we can say that it is conserved. So this is known as the principle of conservation of linear momentum. So whenever they tell you guys to state the principle of conservation of linear momentum, you are going to say the total linear momentum of an isolated system remains constant. Or you can say that it is conserved. That's why I put it in brackets. That's 2 marks. The total linear momentum of an isolated system remains constant. But for us to fully understand this definition when it comes to physically perceiving it, we need to understand what an isolated system is. Guys, what is a system, first of all, before we get to an isolated one? What is a system?
So isn't it like a so like you see like a pot on a stove, right? And it's boiling water, right?
Yes.
And then it makes steam, right?
Yeah.
And then the steams go into the surroundings. So
Yes.
it's going to be the surroundings and the internal, which is going to make up the system. I don't know how to explain it, but I can put it into like a practical example.
Yes, that's a good practical example. That's an example. That is actually a field in physics known as thermodynamics that you can do. Okay, Lerato had raised her hand here. What is a system? Just in general terms, without putting any physics. Just whenever I say system, Bonol.
I think a system is a collection of 2 or more objects.
Cool,
That's
simple.
not how to
So it's simply that, just to less complicate things, it's a combination or it's a connection of 2 or more objects. When I'm telling you about the digestive system, it's a combination of the organs of the alimentary canal. When I'm telling you about any system, I'm combining 2 objects that are interacting with each other. So when I'm talking about a system in this particular context, I'm talking about these 2 balls. The combination, actually, is a combination of 2 things. So when I say a system, I'm talking about these 2 balls all together. We say it is known as a system of balls. Okay, you don't really have to say a system of balls, but we're having these 2 balls together that are interacting. So that's a system. Yes, Sam.
I'm saying we have 3 types of system in physics. It's, if I'm not mistaken, it's open and closed, even isolated system, which is already by Shilo. The part
Yes.
of that object can be combined and stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. So now, Tina, we are most interested in the isolated system because this is a system on which the net external force is 0. So it means that each and every force that is being applied on this system, I'm sure a system is the whole collection of these 2 balls. So every external force, it can be friction or it can be someone pushing the balls or something like that. Any force that you can apply to these 2 balls, it must be 0. The net force must be 0 in an isolated system, meaning that these balls, we are assuming that they are not experiencing any frictional force. They are just rolling over each other. So the system is isolated. There is no other force influencing their association. In fact, the only forces that we'll consider is the force whereby this ball comes and pushes this one. Is now a force within that system. Okay, but if we're talking about other forces such as frictional force or force applied, all of those, they are not part of the system. So we say that the total linear momentum in this isolated system remains constant. So an isolated system is a system on which net external force is 0, meaning that you don't really, in practical sense, you are not having any friction, just to keep it simple. Okay, so mathematically, we need to be able to express that using maths. Okay, I don't know why this is here. This okay. I don't know why this is here. I don't know when I was typing my slides. This is necessary. Okay, this is unnecessary. So when I'm talking about the mathematics now, we are bringing Lerato's mindset, the mathematical mindset, to say that if we add up the momentum initially, so if we add up the momentum of these two balls in the system initially, we must get the same momentum if we add them up, their momenta finally. Okay, so this sigma symbol simply means that you are adding something up. So in this case, it means that I'm adding the momentum of object 1 plus the momentum of object 2 initially. So this is at first, I'm adding these, their momenta. Okay, I must get the same momentum if I add object 1's momentum and object 2 momentum finally. So now we're now expressing it in a mathematical way to say that if I add the momentum here on ball number 1 and the momentum on ball number 2 at first before they collided, and after they've collided and this ball has pushed this one, we must get the same total momentum. Don't just say the linear momentum, it is the total linear momentum. The total means that you are adding the momenta of each and every object in the system. In this case, you are adding the momentum of this big ball and the momentum of this small ball. Are we together? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So just to give a little example, right? You are in a house. Just consider you are in a house. This is you. Let's just say this is Bonolo, and then this is your brother Sam. So we have got Bonolo and we have got Sam, these two. So I give you 50 rands. Okay, let's just say I give you 100 rands, guys, right? I give you 100 rands, and then you share it. Maybe someone has got a 50 rand and another one has got 50 rand. I gave you 100 rands together. So the total money that you guys have is what? Is 100 initially. Let's just say maybe Sam is a very kind person. Are you a kind person, Sam? Before I frame you, let me know. I don't want to frame you. Okay. So now let's say Sam is a kind person. Says, "Utai man Bonolo, my sister. I see that you've got 50 rand, but you want to do some nails. So since you want to do some nails, let me give you 20 rand more. So now Bonolo has got 70 rand, but now Sam is left now with only 30 rands, right? Okay. So Sam is only left with 30 rands because he gave his 20 rand to Bonolo. Okay, if I count the total amount that these people have altogether is equals to how many rands?
100.
It's still 100 rand. If I add the 70 rand that Bonolo now has and the 30 rands that SM now has, it is still 100 rands, guys. It is because the money has just been transferred within the system. Okay, there was no one who added money, so it's an isolated system. No one added a force. It's more like the net external force is 0. We didn't do anything to them, but they were able to transfer money to each other, but their total money will remain constant. That's why it's important for you guys to say the total linear momentum. Don't just say the linear momentum. It is the total linear momentum, to prove when we add up all their momenta at first, we must get the same number even if we add it. Although Sam gave 20 rands to Bonolo, okay, now Sam has got 30 rand. Individually, Sam has got now less money, Bonolo has now more money. But when you look at their total, which is the total, because they're a system, they are interacting as two objects. When we add their total, it is 100 rand. So it means that the total remained constant. So it has been conserved because no one added money for them. All right. So similarly here, this ball, if it has got some momentum, maybe 50 kilograms meter per second, and this one has got 0 kilograms meter per second, the one with 50 can transfer a portion of its momentum to this one when they collide with one another. Okay, but their total will remain constant because there is no other force acting, no other external force adding to their momentum. Do you get the sense?
Yes.
Are we getting each other? Yes. Okay. So now, to put a bit of mathematics, you guys already know that momentum is the product of mass and velocity of a particular object. So just to simplify this formula, I'm going to say that for P1, for me to calculate the initial momentum of object number 1, let's just say object number 1 is the big ball. So for me to calculate the momentum of the big ball initially, I would say its mass multiplied by its velocity. So this is mass of object 1 times velocity of object 1 plus, now this is plus P2, which is the momentum. These are small letter P's, guys. Please don't get my handwriting wrong. P2, it is the momentum of the second object, which is this ball. Okay, we haven't substituted anything. This is okay. Yes, Gia.
So is it a must to write the P in a cursive font, or you were supposed to write it as a P?
No, it's a small letter P.
Okay.
So to find P2, which is the momentum of this pink ball, object number 2, I have to multiply its mass. Let's just say mass of object 2 and velocity of object 2. And this is their initial, guys. This is only their initial before they started interacting with one another, right? Before at this point, this is the initial before they started interacting with one another. This big ball had some big velocity, but this small ball had zero momentum. Okay, then now the final momentum, if I say P1, this P1 here, it is still object 1, guys, but I'm looking at the momentum finally after colliding with one another. All right, so I'm still going to use the same mass and say this is mass of object 1 times the velocity of object 1 plus P2 finally is mass of object 2 times velocity of object 2, and I'm going to say finally. Okay, so this is the formal formula for the conservation. This is the mathematical formula for the conservation of linear momentum. So do you guys understand it physically and also mathematically? Yes, Kia?
So isn't that when you put the MV inside a bracket, it means it's a couplet, isn't like manje. When the cars maybe decrashes, it means they are together. I don't know, like they're moving to the same direction together as delay in a bracket, or it doesn't really go like that.
It depends on what is in the bracket. In this case, I've put all of these in the bracket and I've put an F at the end to just say it's the final values. But otherwise, someone can write in this way. Someone can just write in this way. Depends on the form it's just a formula, so you can write it in any form that you want. So you can say that this is mass 1 times velocity 1 initially, mass 2 times velocity 2 initially, and then this is mass 1 times velocity 1 finally, mass 2 times velocity 2 finally. It is still the same thing, it's just a notation. You will see where the bracket will play a role later on when you continue. It's about what's in the bracket. Do you kind of get the sense?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So now, guys, if you understand here, I took a lot of time here because I wanted you guys to understand it in a physical manner because it's very important. Now, let's just do a bit of application. Now, in the diagram below, we've got a 200 grams ball. Now we are going to assign this big ball to be having a mass of 200 grams, right? And then it is moving at a speed, at a velocity of 15 meters per second eastwards. Okay, so it is going towards the east. This is its velocity at first, right? Because this is before, towards a 50 grams ball. So this is a ball that is having a mass of 50 grams. Okay. And then now they say that is moving at 10 meters per second towards the west. So this pink ball now, I'm telling you that it is moving to the west. So these balls are kind of coming towards each other. Do you see that, guys?
Yes,
yes. So this one is moving to the east, this one is moving to the west. So they are coming towards each other and they will collide at some point. So after collision, the red ball now moves eastwards. Do you see, guys, that after colliding with each other, this red ball, it now chooses to move eastwards. Remember, it was moving to the west, but now it is moving to the east. Now, my question is, what happens to this big ball? This big ball, where is it going? Is it going to be stationary, or is it going to move eastwards or westwards? What do you think will happen?
So I think question B, the words are wrong. I think it's supposed to be which the white ball will move.
Yeah, it's the white one. It's just a wrong phrasing. But my question still stands. I'm asking, Oti, what do you think will happen if these two collide? Because we've already been told that if these two collide with one another, meaning that this black and white ball collides with this red and white ball, they collide, they hit each other. This red ball will end up changing direction and moving in that direction at 5 meters per second. But in your own imagination, what do you think will happen to the white ball? Dahatso?
Same thing, my wrong answer. Ne? I think since we said that momentum can be transferred to another object, the momentum has been transferred to the red ball, meaning the white ball will, I don't know, remain constant, like stay still. I don't know.
Yeah, good. We can make good predictions, guys. We can make good predictions. You know, there are many things that can happen, but mathematics makes it easier for us to calculate what happened. Yes, Dahatso is still raising your hand.
No, sorry, sir.
Yeah.
Or it will partially continue moving to the east, partially.
Yes, guys. Do you know, guys, what it can happen that it will move this direction, or it can happen that it will move this direction. But what does that depend on? It depends on its mass, how heavy it is. Guys, if a heavy object and a light object collide with each other, you know that the heavy object will push the light object, right? But you don't have to think about it too much in a physical way. You have to just bring the mathematics and tell us that no matter what happens, I know that the sum of their momenta initially will be equal to each other finally. Okay, so now I'm just going to write this formula and say M1 V1 initially plus M2 V2 finally is equals to M1 V1. Oh, this is initially, this is finally, and then M2 V2 finally. Okay, so this is the standard formula. This is the general formula that you're gonna use for now, of course. So this is initially. So all we have to do is to substitute and try to find out what happens to the white ball. And what happens to the white ball just depends on its mass, how heavy it is. If it is heavy, maybe it will just become stationary. Okay. If it is that heavy, maybe it will just be stationary, it won't move. But if it is a light ball, it is likely to move. Okay. But we can only determine that using the mathematics. Mathematics make it simpler for us. Okay. This is the mass of a object 1 is 200 grams, right? 200 grams. And then the velocity of 1 is 15 meters per second. Is it fine?
No,
Yes.
second is the mass, we use it like that.
Yes, we convert, guys. You shouldn't even let me do that at all. We convert the mass. This is 200 grams. It must be in kilograms.
0.2.
0.2
Yes.
kilograms. You now know, guys, how to convert. And guys, remember that the velocity here, it is a vector quantity. It is very important for you to mention the direction. So in this case, we always choose east as positive, west as negative. Okay. So in this way, we're gonna say mass of object 2, which is the small red ball. It is 50 grams. So that is going to be what? 0.1.
0.05.
0.05.
Yes, 0.05, right? 0.05 kilograms. And then initially it was moving at what velocity?
Minus 10 meters per
10.
second west.
Yes, because it was going to the west. Remember that the moment you say east is positive, then automatically west must be negative. This must be equal to, now we are substituting now for mass 1. So mass 1, we are still talking about the first ball, guys. Don't bring new objects here. We are still using the same system. So the mass does not change. All right. So mass 1 is still 0.2. But do we know the speed, the final velocity, of this black and white ball? No, we are looking for it because we don't know what happens to it. Where does it go? How does it go? Okay, and then the mass 2, which is this pink ball, it is still 50 grams, so that is still 0.05 kg. And then what is its speed now after the collision?
It's positive 5.
Positive 5 meters per second. Why is it positive?
Because it's moving eastwards after the collision.
Okay, so now you just have to work out the mathematics and the ratios. So 15 times 0.2, what do you get there? Oh, by the way, we're answering number B. Number A, guys, you know how to state the conservation of linear momentum. I already told you how to state it. 15 times 0.2 plus negative 10 times 0.05. Just put everything on the left-hand side on the calculator.
So everything is going to give you 2.5.
2.5. So this is going to be 2.5 is equal to, okay, on the other side we've got 0.2 multiplied by the final velocity of object 1 of this first ball, and then 5 times 0.05, what do we get?
0.25.
0.25. So this is 0.25. You just need to transpose the 0.25. You minus 2.5 minus 0.25. When you transpose, you're going to do the maths, of course. That's going to give you 2, right?
2.25. So it's going to give you 2.25.
Oh, it's 0.25. Okay, it's fine. 0.25. You guys should use your calculator, of course, and then you just divide both sides by 0.2 to find the answer.
11.25 meters per second east.
11 point. Okay, so V1F, the final velocity of object 1, is
11.25 meters per second east.
11.25 meters per second east. Do you guys see now that you now know what happens to this ball? This ball is actually going to move to the right. It will continue moving to the right. But now look at its velocity. Initially, this big ball, it was moving with 15 meters per second east. But now it is now moving with what? 11.25. Do you see that?
Yes.
Yes. So what happens to its velocity? What happened to it?
The velocity decreased.
It decreased. Why did it decrease?
Isn't it because it passed some of its velocity to the smaller ball?
Exactly. So it transferred some of its momentum to the smaller ball. Don't just say it transferred velocity alone. It transferred momentum, because the mass also matters. If this pink ball was so heavy, it will not be able to transfer the same amount. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, guys, imagine it, guys. If this pink ball, it was this heavy, it was so big, do you think that this black and white ball was going to be able to push it to move to the east? Would it?
No,
it wouldn't, Anish. So the mass also matters. Otherwise, velocity it will be just something that you can just transfer to each other easily. Okay, but if we have got a car and a bus, if a car is moving towards the bus and it crashes into the bus, does the bus move, guys? Does the car transfer its velocity to the bus?
No.
Why doesn't it transfer the velocity to the bus? Why does the bus move away? Because it has been pushed by the car.
Wait, so can I say it depends?
It depends.
Like, is it possible to ever say that? Like, let's say the car is like extremely loaded.
Okay, let's just become realistic, guys. I'm using a Polo Vivo, guys. I'm using a Polo Vivo, and there's an Intercab bus in front of me, and I hit the bus, guys. What is going to happen there?
So your car's gonna go back, or it's just gonna merge into the truck, the bus?
Yes, it would be impossible for the bus to move forward, okay? Because velocity is not something that you can just transfer between object to another. It depends on the mass. That is why we transfer momentum, not velocity alone. Okay, because remember that a momentum, it is counting mass and velocity. I'm sure the formula says the formula for momentum says P is equals to mv, meaning that it's a product of mass and velocity. So it also takes into the consideration how heavy the object is. Yes, Orifa?
So for this particular section of conservation of momentum, so will we always be told that it is conserved, or like will we ever get a question where it's like, was momentum conserved, and then you have to prove it by doing like separate equations and then looking if they're equal? Do we get a question like that, or will they always tell us that it's conserved?
Usually, guys, you are not given systems that are not isolated. Most systems, all the systems that they usually question you with, they are isolated. They just want you to calculate the speed or the mass or whatever that is within the formula. You already know that momentum is always conserved. It's rare for them to ask you to prove that momentum has been conserved, because usually in these physics problems, we just assume that we're in an isolated system, there is no friction. But in a realistic sense, friction is always there. But for problems, they will always, they won't even tell you that ignore friction. You must know it, that it's always an isolated system.
So why are we always working with hypothetical things? Like, is it for the sake of simplicity, or is it like, why are we always working with hypothetical situations in physics?
I'll give you an answer after the break. The 10 minutes break will cut you off right now, right?
Hey Lapo, I know that you've been enjoying this wonderful video, and most likely you've been enjoying watching this handsome face in front of you, but sorry ladies, I'm taken. I just here to tell you that Educate is on the road to 100,000 subscribers by the end of 2025. So please click the subscribe button and click the notification bell so that you get notifications whenever I post new videos. I want you guys to pass. Okay, so if you make my dream true, I reach 100k subscribers, I will make your dreams come true. I will even get you to varsity. I will get you with 7 distinctions. Yes.
Now the question from Orifa writes, Orifa was asking me why we always have to hypothesize. What is the word hypothesize or something like that?
I don't know. I said hypothetical. I don't know.
Yeah, but we take all situations as hypothetical. Guys, in reality, such a thing as no friction doesn't exist. Frictionless in reality doesn't exist. There is always friction in reality. And this thing of conservation of energy, in reality, okay, to an extent, energy is not transferred completely. Okay, so we use isolated systems, we use frictionless surface, we use vacuums, all of those stuff. We do it so that our concept can be clearer to you guys, okay? Because if you want to measure maybe the effect of force on velocity, you don't need to have any other friction. You just want to see how that force affects velocity alone. So you have to kind of make everything hypothetical, something that is not really existent, okay?
Yes, so basically we're just investigating.
Yes, we're investigating, but this investigating and research is not useless. It is very important because there are people who are doing engineering. So when you are doing engineering, it is otherwise known as applied physics. So basically, you need to apply those concepts into real world problems. But now, when you go to engineering, that's when they will stop becoming hypothetical and they will start including the frictions, the frictions and the losses of energy and all of that thing. But for now, you are doing just theoretical physics. That's why we say it's known as theoretical physics, because you are theorizing everything. It's not really realistically or practically applicable. But if you go into electrical engineering, the formula that you know in high school, it would have new coefficients, new constants, new things, the formula that you are using in grade 12, because now it has to be used to apply in real life. Yeah, for example, if we have got 2 cars that are clashing into each other, right, we want to see who caused the accident. The forensics there will ask for the person who can do an analysis, maybe a physicist to do an analysis, or an engineer. That person will look at the speed of the first car and the speed of the second car and how they collided. Gonna look at the CCTV camera. They will be able to detect who caused the crash. Okay, so they will now be using those complex formulas because now they need to apply it in real life. For this time, we are using this theoretical physics so that we can build a basic, so that you guys understand how these forces and quantities relate to one another. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so if you guys are enthusiastic, physics is a good thing to take in varsity because it allows you to do many things. You can do any form of engineering if you've got a physics degree. So besides that, guys, let's continue so that you can close off the chapter. Now, let's now look at the type of collisions that we have. I think this was mentioned by Lerato, right? Yeah, Lerato mentioned this. Yeah. We've got type of collisions. We've got a collision in which the objects move off together. All right. Let's get the English straight. The objects move off together. Okay. So now here, what is happening in this collision? Just look at this diagram that I've extracted from KwaZulu-Natal paper. You can see that before the collision, we had a car that was moving at 80 kilometers per hour. Can you see that? The car that is moving to the left, to the right, njalo, by 80 kilometers per hour. Are you guys able to see that? Yeah, and then we've got a bakkie here. This bakkie here, guys, is not moving. This bakkie, it is just a stationary. It's not moving. Then again, now this car, maybe this person is probably drunk, or they are probably, I don't know, on drugs or something like that. It happens that it hits this bakkie, and they move off together. Do you see the point of moving off together? Because these cars, after colliding with one another, after collision, they all move to the right with 6 meters per second. So at first it was just the car alone, but now after this they will move off together. And now they are moving off together at 6 meters per second. So this is the first type of collision that we have. And now we have to bring Lerato's point of mathematics here to say that the mathematics can be a bit different, but Orifa is right when she says we can still use the same formula. All right. For example, here, remember that at first we said that a mass of object 1 times velocity of object 1 initially plus mass of object 2 times velocity 2 initially must be equal to mass of object 1 times velocity 1 finally plus mass of object 2 times velocity of object 2 finally. Right, this was the primary formula that we used to describe that the total linear momentum in this isolated system is conserved. But here, guys, you need to notice here, can I ask one question, guys? Can objects move together at different velocities? Can objects move together at different velocities? Why do you say no? Why do you say no?
Because let's say, so I'm just gonna do it in an example because I don't know how to explain, but let's say I am running to the right and Bonolo is also running to the right, and then I go into Bonolo and by some magic we merge into each other. We are not gonna run at two different velocities because we are now one mass. So we're gonna have the same velocity because we are now one. We are united.
Cool thinking, Sam.
I was going to say that, sir.
Yeah, you guys, you cannot run together but have different speeds. Pella, speed determines how far you go. Actually, speed determines how much distance you travel, right? If someone is traveling at a high speed, they're gonna move a bigger distance in a shorter time compared to you. So basically, for objects to move together, or for objects to move off together, we need them to have the same speed. So here in this particular scenario, at first the bakkie was stationary, meaning that it has a speed of 0 or just the velocity of 0 meters per second. It was just stationary. But this car had 80 kilometers per hour towards the right. So now that they've collided to one another, they are moving off together, both with 6 meters per second. So we can just say the final velocity of the car and the final velocity of the bakkie is now equal. Can we agree on that?
Yes, sir.
So in other words, I'm trying to say that this final velocity of object 1, which is the car, and this final velocity of object 2, which is the bakkie, is now the same thing. It's now the same thing because they are moving off with each other together, right?
Yes, sir.
So mathematically, I can say this is mass 1 times velocity 1 initially plus mass 2 times velocity 2 initially is equal to. Now, you guys remember maths, right? Maths says if I've got something like this, 7x plus 5x, like this, okay, plus 5x squared, I'm allowed to take out the x and remain with 7 plus 5x. Why am I allowed to do this? Why am I allowed to factorize the x? It is because the x here is a common variable in both these two terms. So if we look at these two terms, we have got v1f then we have got V2F, which is the velocity of the car and the velocity of the bakkie, respectively. So if these two, I'm trying to say, Mina, they are equal. I'm trying to say that the final velocity of the car, which is object 1, is equals to the final velocity of the bakkie, which is object 2. So it means that this is actually the same thing. I can just factorize it and just call it final velocity into what? Into mass 1 into mass 1 plus mass 2.
That's mass.
Do you guys see the sense? How you guys
Yes,
understand?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So if you redistribute this VF, and you distribute it again into the bracket, this will be mass 1 times that final velocity, and this will be mass 2 times that final velocity. It is the same final velocity. That's why we are allowed to take it out. So are we getting each other?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you guys, it depends on how you see this, guys. Another person can just say this is mass 1 plus M2. We are kind of combining their mass into one thing. So it's more like we are pretending that this is one big object. This is one big car that is made by these two cars. That is why we are combining their masses. And then this is the speed of that particular car. And remember that the mass times the velocity is equals to what? The momentum. So it's more like it's a momentum of that one big car that is made up of the small car and the back. But if you guys cannot see it in that way, it's fine. Just see them as separate things for now. So all you have to do is to substitute, guys, nothing else here. I just wanted to show you that mathematically you can just factorize this VF if the objects are moving off together. Are we together?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you just have to substitute, guys, if they give you anything. Okay. We have got collisions and rebounds. Collisions and rebounds are the ones that we've been doing, guys. There's nothing that will change here for this one. Remember our primary formula that we're using, it was mass 1 times velocity 1 initially plus mass 2 times velocity 2 initially is equals to mass 1 times velocity 1 finally plus mass 2 times velocity 2 finally. Okay, so in this particular case, look at this. The objects, they were moving towards each other, one with 15 meters per second, the other one with 10 meters per second. And then finally, what is happening? This black and white ball, it is now moving to the west now. And then this red ball is now moving to the east. So it's more like they are moving away from each other, okay? Normally they are separate. They didn't move together. So it means that they will have different velocities. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So it means that the velocity of the object 1, which is the big ball in this case, and object 2, which is the small ball, is still different from one another. Okay. And the velocity of object 1 initially, they had different velocities here. So this is known as a collision and a rebound. You just use this formula exactly as it is, then you substitute. Bear in mind, guys, that this is just mathematics. Factorizing, it is the same thing. Yabona, this expression and this expression are equal to one another. It's the same thing. So if you guys are not getting this thing of factorizing, just use this formula exactly as it is. They will mark it correct, okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, don't sleep. Let's go to explosions now. We're done with collisions, the simple ones. The explosions that we have here, we have got, if we have got two objects that are combined, okay, so here, these objects, they look like one object. And this looks like it's only one object. But let's just assume that we've got two objects that are combined with each other, like this. So it's object A and B. And then an explosion occurs. I'm sure they are together or they are combined with one another. So let's just say this portion is object A, this portion is object B. But here, in this case, they are one mass. It's more like they are combined. They are one thing. Do you kind of get the sense of what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what happens? An explosion simply means that we had two objects that were one mass or that were combined with one another, just like in this scenario, this object A and B, it is like two blocks that are connected to one another in some way. Maybe there's some glue or something like that connecting them. Okay. Now an explosion occurs. Pooh! It means that one now moves this direction, another one in the opposite direction. So now they are moving away from one another. You can see that these blocks have separated. Do we see that?
Yes.
Okay, so let me just rewrite our initial formula so that you guys can give me how this formula would be like. How do you think this formula will turn out to be according to what you say?
So it'll be the reverse of the one we did previously.
Yes.
So it'll just be like,
yeah, exactly. Because you can see that here at first they were together. Guys, you cannot be together and move at different speeds. I'm not talking only about education. In life, you cannot tell me that you are together with someone but move at different speeds. That's why when I'm asking, when I'm doing questions, I'm asking, are we together, guys? Or maybe I'm moving with a different speed than you guys. Okay, so you cannot be together and be at different speeds. So if these blocks are attached to one another, it means that they are having the same velocity initially before the explosion occurs. We are having these two blocks that are having an equal velocity, and automatically you're just going to apply the maths there and say that since this velocity initial and this velocity initial, it is the same thing. Since V1 initial and V2 initial are equal to one another, then automatically I can just factorize the V initial and remain with mass 1 plus mass 2. And then after the equal sign, they are separating. Now they are having different velocities because now they are moving away from each other. You can see that after this scenario, they are moving away from each other. Are we able to see what happened?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good girls and boys. Springs, it works the same way. Now I'm no longer going to rewrite the formula. The same formula. Okay, this formula, I'm sure you substitute into this formula, right? If we're having an explosion, a spring is a kind of a type of an explosion because we've got two objects attached by a spring. So we assume that this spring is frictionless most of the times. We just assume that it's frictionless. It doesn't add any friction. Okay, so this time they are together. You can see that object A and object B are together, right, initially. So this is object A and object B, they are together initially. Then finally they are separated. You are still going to use the same formula, guys. Do you see that?
yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Even on firearms, guys, this is what happens if you didn't know how a gun works. A gun has a bullet inside, right? So this is your firearm or this is your gun. And inside it, you find a what? Inside it, you find a bullet. Inside it, you find a bullet. So they are together at first. You see that the bullet is inside the gun. So essentially, you can say that they are together. They're having the same initial velocity. And usually, the initial velocity for this one is 0 because neither the gun nor the bullet are moving. We get the sense, right? Before shooting, they're not moving.
Yes, it does.
So now the moment you shoot, what happens? The bullet will come out of this gun and come out in this direction to the right or towards where the gun is pointing. But the gun will recoil back. This is known as recoiling. Do you know when they say that a gun recoils back?
Yes.
Yeah. So whenever
Isn't it like when you shoot and then the bullet exerts a force back on the gun,
exactly,
then it moves back? Isn't that recoiling?
Yes, that's the physics behind it. But most of the people, they without explaining it in physics terms, you just need to know that if you fire a gun, that gun will come back at you quickly. So that's why whenever you go for a firearm training, for example, maybe you want to have a licensed gun, they are going to teach you how to hold the gun with force so that when the gun goes back, because the gun will just shift back. Okay, the moment you shoot, the gun will move back a bit. Okay, so it will just move back, but that depends on its mass. So the moment this bullet exits, it will exert a force on this gun, but depending on its mass, we will see how much momentum has been transferred. Do we get the sense?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so you guys now need to do problems. I think this is enough. It's 11 o'clock and it's in the night. Other people want to go to church in the morning. So you guys need to now get some homework. You guys are going to do question 19, the first one that you can see here. So the homeworks are going to be a lot indeed now because we are done with the topic. Homework 1.
Yeah.
Homework 2. You guys go a research on the elastic and inelastic collisions. A simple concept. You're just going to touch base on it and go to organic chemistry. This is homework A. Okay, you research on these elastic collisions. Yes, Sam?
So, sir, if this is delay, how we are going to market, like, think we are done with this part.
We can just have one revision session just to mark the work and just finish off because we need to move with time, guys. It's a bit late.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, like we are far behind. I can see the schools moving fast. So let's go homework number 5 and the last one. No, it's not the last one. 6 and then lastly 7. Yeah. Okay, so these ones, when are they due? Today is the 24th of January. So since it's 24th of January, our next physics session, I think it's going to be, when is our next physics session? Is it on Monday?
It's on Monday.
It's on Monday,
Yes, sir.
right? Yeah, so you will do these homeworks, but not have them ready by Monday is fine. We will start with organic chemistry. I think I will try to mark the activities, just put them on the inbox. Okay, who's praying with us today? Where is this name? Yeah,
Sir.
today. Yes, nesicela usikhulekele. Ngiyazi ukuthi ungwala eduze.
Can I do a silent prayer?
It's fine. Silent, what?
A silent prayer.
Which one is that one?
The one where you pray in your heart.
So you're gonna tell us when to say amen. Ne?
Yes.
Okay, I think we can accept silent prayers. Some people are nonchalant. Eh?
That's nonchalant. It's just I'm not used to praying for people.
Oh, okay, it's fine. Let's hear the silent prayer. Sarcastic.
Amen.
Amen, girl. We heard that loud and clear.
Hey, that was so loud.
Amen.